Okay, we are going to watch a old segment of a speech of Joe Biden during his presidency.
Enough rogue gun dealers feel like they can get away with selling guns to people who aren't legally allowed to own.
Okay, so I would call this statement right here, where this video starts off at, as a Freudian slip.
The day it was passed, limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. You couldn't buy a cannon.
Though he does oppose gun rights, which is very sus to me. It's literally the Second Amendment. A part of the right to bear arms is to also have a well-regulated militia, meaning that the citizens are well armed, so that in case of tyranny, you can overthrow it. Hey, I didn't burn the books. I didn't quiet dissenting voices. Yeah, but he also hits on a topic. He also hits on a topic. By the way, during Joe Biden's presidency, you couldn't talk about COVID at all. You could not say that word. Otherwise, you would get fired from your job. This level of control. Almost like book burning. That's a different matter. Tangent. See, that's my issue. I go off on a tangent and then come back. And so he hits on this topic about the canon. I don't feel so bad about doing as many tangents in this video because, I mean, let's face it, we're talking about Joe Biden, the king of non sequiturs. He hits on this topic. He hits on this topic of citizens not being able to own cannons. And, you know, that's not entirely true. I mean, we had pirates back in the day. Isn't that how the Navy got started? Wasn't it just like a bunch of privateers? Wasn't the War of 1812? I think don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to this. I will make sure I go and look back and check myself. But wasn't some like War of 1812 like basically a pirate war? Like wasn't the revolution, like the fight for independence in America, wasn't that like based off the backs of pirates in some capacity? And so therefore, you know, there was like canon ownership. this is why this is why I am a big proponent for like self-control and personal responsibility, and like having morals, so that we can own guns. I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of like having a well-regulated militia in case there was a tyranny like Joe Biden?
Those who say the blood of patriots, you know, and all the stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not water with the blood of patriots.
His speech, he is trying to refer back to a Jefferson quote. And it comes from a letter in like the 1780s, so after the Revolutionary War, talking about Shays' Rebellion, which was a rebellion in Massachusetts where the farmers felt like they were getting gypped, and they fought back. And this letter is talking about almost the necessity of rebellions happening and it being good for the republic. Almost like a necessary evil, according to Jefferson and those beliefs. Now, I don't necessarily think that is true. Those are the words of a man. But he basically takes the point of view that rebellions are a good and healthy natural cycle of things where people die. That's what he is saying. He's saying that war, good. Now, I don't necessarily think that is true. I do see the validity in it, but is there something better? I think there is, and that is involved with no war. That's just my opinion. If it has to happen, it has to happen. I'm not opposed to war, but the best way to win a fight is to run away. And if that doesn't work, you gotta fight. So I'm just nitpicking. I am not saying that it is not a working mechanism within a republic. I'm not saying that it doesn't work, because it works. I would say looking at rebellions as a necessary mechanism of the republic in order for it to keep a living spirit, I see the validity in that argument. Not to say that other arguments also are not valid. So that is what Joe Biden is trying to refer to here. An obscure idea that came from a letter to from Jefferson to his son-in-law, and he writes about the tree of liberty needs to be fed the blood of patriots and tyrants. Talking about Shays' Rebellion, right? Where the farmers felt like they were getting gypped. I've already said this. I'm just circling back, making sure everything's all nice and neat. Review. And so he is trying to hint at rebellion and gun rights. I'm not quite following what's happening here. Because if you look at the text that Joe Biden is using, I would not use this text personally. I think it's really obscure and doesn't hold much weight, but valid, right? This piece of text is probably pro-gun, like pro-gun ownership, pro-rebellion. And he is trying to talk about gun control, like less gun rights.
What's happened is that there never been, if you wanted to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons.
And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. His big argument that gun control needs to happen. That we would need F-15s and nuclear weapons. Yes, give me. I think this is possibly the greatest and most misled, the greatest argument for gun rights. Should we have nuclear weapons? Give me. No. Privatize the nuclear bombs. Tyranny is afoot. Everybody knows that's ridiculous. Nuclear bombs do not equate to guns. Nowhere near high capacity guns. And for the most part, I'm not saying that there's not outliers, but for the most part, if you see somebody and they're getting a little squirrely on you, probably don't give them a gun. Don't give the squirrely folk a gun. And I think that's pretty much everything wrapped up as gun laws. But I love this argument that he makes. This is not the only time he makes this argument. This is uh you know uh his main running his main idea behind running as president, to take away our guns, at least for this presidency. He is known as a grifter. Uh, he changes his stance to be a politician. And in this stance, he's running defense for illegal immigration and fentanyl and human trafficking um, during this time. And he's also, at the beginning of his speech, or of this segment, he also talks about illegal people that are not supposed to have guns having guns, right? During his presidency. That's why I say it's a Freudian slip. It's coming out of his subconscious as to what he is doing. Uh, Trying to lie to you, and it's not working. Um, the analogy that semi-automatic rifles, enough to be a militia, is far different than a tank. But we do have privatized tanks. That's the thing. It's just not readily available. I'm sure I could go buy an F-15 with the proper paperwork and proper training, and I'm sure that would be allowed to me, minus missiles or weapon systems. Um, it would just be a lot of money, and I don't have that. So it's really a ridiculous argument he is making here. It's super overinflated when we are talking about gun rights. Gun rights, we just want some bad guns able to defend ourselves from tyranny. And I mean, we didn't win Vietnam. uh, they didn't have cutting edge technology, and we still didn't win. So that's the importance of having guns. If you're scared of school shooters, maybe teach people responsibility and self accountability. Uh, I think the best way to do that is through Jesus Christ, uh, wholeheartedly. Yeah, it's just so funny. Just so funny. Yeah, we want semi-automatic rifles, and go ahead and give us cannons, please. Joe Biden, this is probably the best thing you've ever said. Not the most memorable, but the best, because now you have inspired me to one day own an F-15. That would be really cool.
The point is that there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it.